Welcome to the Living Spiritually Podcast, Come Alive edition. Here are your hosts for today, Paul Galloro and Catherine Stilo.
So, we're just jumping into it today because we're recording this. First was 108, then it's 111. We're like in the middle of something. Here we are, Kitty Girl. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Oh my God. Bursting.
Yeah, right? Okay, so I'm going to break the fourth wall. We're pre-recording this. We're actually recording this on the new moon. That's happening before Valentine's Day, but it's being launched on Valentine's Day or released on Valentine's Day, which I think is so fitting. We did not plan this. This just happened to be the way it fell.
It happened. And so when it happened that way, it was like, well, what are we going to talk about? Well, is it even a question what we're going to talk about?
Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about sadness. No, I'm kidding.
Well, but that's part of it.
It is part of it.
It is part of it. Let's talk about love, because it's everything. It is the sadness and the dark and the dense, and there's the depth and dense emotions, and then there's the light ones, and it's all part of this glorious thing called love. And that's a really great kind of segue to say, when we started this conversation, we start with how are you? And we don't answer, I'm fine, I'm okay, because I was about to, and then I realized that's not really true. And I, to be honest, when we started this conversation, our conversation, I wasn't in that space. I was like, how am I going to talk about love when I'm like feeling a little bit off right now, to be honest? Not in my heart at all. And then of course, as we chat, I'm starting to go, oh, okay, I'm landing. And then we saw 108 and 111. And it's like, now it's time. All right. The universe is saying it's time. Yeah.
I love it. Before we get into our conversation though, can we just take a pause to acknowledge how amazing the two of us are? Number one, can we talk about your yoga series and workshops that are happening? Because you're currently, what's happening currently with your yoga series?
So we just wrapped up a session that was called Luminous, where we lit ourselves up to become the luminous beings that we are, moving into homo luminous. The upcoming session that starts on Tuesday is called Into the Heart. So we are, we are going in, and we're in powerful times. And it's time for all of us to ask big questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? What is this place? Why are we here? So we're going to use movement, meditation, mantra to start to really connect with the depth of our own hearts. And
Oh, I love that. Please, listeners, if you're listening to this and you're interested, check out Catherine's links and stuff there to find out more. That's how they can register or get more information from that. Congratulations. I love that theme. And I'm not just saying it because we're talking about love today and it's about love. But that's awesome. I just wanted to mention that Arise is still up and running. It's a perpetual evergreen program. So people can sign up whenever they want to. It's a morning program that gets people started for their day. It's about setting our mind and our heart, aligning the two, getting into our bodies so that we can set intentions for the day and go out and be our fabulous self. The other thing that I wanted to mention, as you know, Claudia, Micco, and I are going to Italy. We have 2 spots left. We're only taking a small intimate group. So if anybody wants to join, now's the time. Check out the information in the show's notes, because once those 2 spots are gone, you're going to have to wait a whole other year, possibly, to come join me in Italy. And
it looks gorgeous. That looks so amazing. And you have 2 other workshops too.
Yes. On March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I'm joining Lisa Greenbaum and Sangha Yoga and Wellness for their advanced yoga and sequencing workshop training. It's a 3-day training. And then myself, Claudia, Micco, and then Mark and Wendy McCormick which we met them last week on the podcast. We're doing Wellness from Within, which I'm really excited about. This is not just for fitness professionals. This is for anybody who has a body and wants to learn more about it. We're discussing immune system, perimenopause, and the endocrine system. So getting deep into the body and understanding how it works.
I love it all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then you and I have a meeting to talk about what we're going to.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff coming. But enough of just keep following us because we're going to be sharing this information. But let's get to the heart of the matter and talk about love.
Oh my God. Where do you want to start?
Let's start at the beginning.
Where is the beginning? I know you mentioned Aquarius season and the different types of love. So we could pick up any one of those places.
Okay, so first and foremost, I just want to make this announcement because I have said this for years, even before I got into romantic relationships, this idea that Valentine's Day, and you know what, I may from time to time say Valentine's Day because I just think that's funny. But this idea that Valentine's Day is only for that one other person. It's this you and your romantic partner. Yes, that's beautiful. It's about the expression of love. And if you have that in your life, celebrate it. It's amazing. If you remember last year on the podcast, I celebrated all the married couples that I officiated their weddings, or most of them anyway, on the podcast. And I think romantic love is amazing. But I also think that idea of it being a Hallmark holiday gets in the way of people staying in their hearts, and B, us celebrating all the types of love. And the fact that Valentine's Day happens in Aquarius season, and Aquarius, if Valentine's Day happened in Leo season, where Leo is all about the self, I'd be like, yes, love yourself, love your one other person, sure. But the fact that it's in Aquarius season, Aquarius is all about humanity. It's a humanitarian sign. So it's looking out for not just the other, it's looking out for the collective. So Valentine's Day, and yes, I know there's stories behind Saint Valentine and all of that stuff. I don't know what they are. I'm sure if I Googled it, I can find out. Cupid shooting his arrow, etc. But the fact that it's in Aquarius season, and as somebody who is connected more to the solar calendar than I am to the Gregorian calendar, the fact that this day falls in Aquarius season is just a beautiful reminder that we need to open up our hearts, not just to one other, not just to ourselves, but to the world. There is so much, yes, there's so much happening out there in the world, but there is so much happening within our immediate world. Like I'm talking about the places where I find myself and the circles that I'm in, that there is so much need for more love in these places. And I think it's great that we take this day to observe how we can bring more love into these spaces and then practice that every day until the next year when we can revisit that. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. And interestingly, when I said Aquarius and the different types of love, I sort of realized that it's actually the same thing.
Yes.
Because as you were expressing about Aquarius and the different types of love, I've just been reading a book by Anna Dea Judith called The Global Heart Awakens. And in it, she talks about how there are different kinds of love. Like the Greeks had actually 4 different words for love. And there was the eros, the romantic love. There was also a word for love that was more of the caring kind of parent-child relationship. There was a word for a love that is more of the friendship type of love. And then there's a word for a love that is devotional love, that is more like a religious or a spiritual experience. So in celebrating love, it's all of those. It's absolutely all of those. And she also goes on to say that love is also an organizing principle. And as this organizing principle for society, it's a perpetual reciprocity. And I just, when I read the words perpetual reciprocity, I was like, oh my God, I could feel them land. And perpetual reciprocity is the thing that allows the relationship to continue. And as I was reading this perpetual reciprocity, I'm like, oh my God, that's permaculture.
Yes.
That's permaculture, where there is permaculture is a system of perpetual reciprocity that keeps that whole system sustaining itself. And I'm like, oh my God, love makes the world go round. Like permaculture is love. I'm like, oh my God, like oh
Totally.
ding, 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 all these light bulbs are going off. And I'm like, oh my God, I have not total understanding, but oh my God, deeper understanding. God, if I ever had total understanding, that'd be awesome.
It's coming. It's coming.
Well, can you ever have total understanding? Because if it changes all the time.
Yeah, this is true.
If it's dynamic. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, so much to touch on that. I love this idea because so it's interesting in Italian, when you're romantically in love with someone, you say ti amo, it's I love you, right? And then people go around saying ti amo in Italian, like, because when I first started to learn Italian, I was going around telling people ti amo. My teacher's like, no, don't say that to me. I'm your teacher. I was like, but and then I got into the whole thing. Like I had to explain what I mean when I say I love you to somebody. And she's like, yes, that exists in Italian, but it's ti voglio bene. And when you say ti voglio bene, you're saying, like the literal translation is, for you, I want wellness. I want you to be well.
Right.
Basically. Which, if we think about what wellness is, it is love of the self, love of the body, love of the spirit, and bringing it all together. That's what I think it is anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so to say ti voglio bene is you're saying, I want you to be well. You talking about the 4 different types of love within Greek, like reminded me of that. Mm-hmm. But at the essence, it is the same energy. And we talk about this all the time. It's the same energy that moves through everything. There was a period of time where I would read something and I would change the word God to love. Mm-hmm. So if it, in Marianne Williamson's, Nelson Mandela's piece, I'm kidding. In Marianne Williamson's, our deepest fear or greatest fear, whatever the language is, she says at the end, you are a child of God. And you and I have even talked about this, how, sometimes when you read that and you're like, ugh. So in the beginning, I would change that word to love. And then when I was studying yoga, a lot of the spiritual texts that I would read would say, God this, God that. But I was just like, okay, but love this, love that. That makes more sense to me. Mm-hmm. But then where you were saying how, there's the different, the way love is a creative force, the acronym to me, the acronym of God is the energy that's governing, organizing, and destructive or transformative. We've talked about this before. Yeah. And where you said that love is that transformative energy or that governing energy totally makes sense to me in that regard.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. We were created out of love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this whole universe is out of that force, the spirit that moves through all things. Whatever name lands and resonates and creates that feeling is the word that we use. Right. And we go with that. There's so many places to go with this because for a while I didn't think I understood what love was. I didn't think that I didn't know how to create this feeling of love. And there's some words that I heard Dr. Zach Bush say in a podcast interview. Now he's actually quoting a friend of his, Patrick John Tempo. His words were, it's beauty. The fabric of everything is beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And our reaction to seeing beauty is love.
Mm-hmm.
And stop trying to generate the feeling of love, a human feeling of love, and start witnessing the beauty, because then you feel the love. And I was like, oh my God. As soon as those words landed, I was like, I get it. I get it. And I noticed, because of the beauty moments that we've been doing.
I was going to say, can we sidebar for a second? Thank you
Yeah.
for doing that, because every day I get a notification of something that just you posted. It makes me stop and go, oh yeah, there's more to life.
Oh, and it's funny because I started doing it because it was our own work
Mm-hmm.
in the last from the last podcast. And then as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my God, this was for me. Like this, I'm doing this for me, because the more that I started to notice the beauty, at first it was like, oh, that's beautiful. And then, but then as I start, now I have multiple shots a day, and I'm like, I don't know which one to post, because these are all beautiful. So the point is that the more that I started actually noticing the beauty, the more beauty there was to notice. And it was this cycle of perpetual reciprocity where it just kept
Yeah.
feeding, right? And I think this is why I resonate so much with nature. I'm not alone. There's so many people, and there's so many people and experts that are also saying that part of what's happening now is a nature deficit disorder, that we're so
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from nature that we're losing all of this magic of life. And it's the beauty that brings me back and starts to fuel me sustainably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, there were so many places when you were talking about because you had said to yourself, like, how do I create love? And the thing that came to mind was exactly what you were saying there, that we don't, like, love is everything, like love is all that is. So it's already there. It doesn't need to be created, but it does need to be noticed, and that's where that beauty is. It needs to be extended through us, because it already is there, but it don't, like, just like spirit only lives through us, love will only live through us, where
Yeah.
it's in the action. Yes, we can talk about it, we can say, we all need love, and we can sing all the songs that we've been singing since the 60s, but unless we're actually doing it, unless we're actually, and that's another thing too, real love puts its, so to speak, puts its money where its mouth is. Because, we see so many people saying things in the name of love, but really it's in the name of dogma and doctrine that comes from your religion. And then it perpetuates hate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I don't need to go into examples, because as I said it, so many people, it's come into their mind of what that means.
Yeah.
But that and this is the other thing too, we need to be, because we talked about the false light before. You brought that concept into my mind, but it's something that people that, the whole idea of a sheep, wolf in sheep's clothing, people will say that they're love, but it's not. I don't know. To me, if you have to say it, if you have to say, oh, look, I am this successful person, there's, if this is the thing, this is gonna, this thing is wellness, it's probably not. Like, if you have to convince somebody that it is. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. I really do. And this is where I have been working to train myself and heighten my intuition so that I feel the vibration rather than see the surface image or the words that are being expressed. I can actually resonate with the vibration, and there's a feeling of, like, when it's love, when the vibration is a feeling that is like expansive and encompassing, and when it's the opposite of that.
Totally.
Oh God. Again, there's all these places to go. So I think what one place to go is kind of mature and immature notions of love. And in exploration, understanding that that love isn't conditional. It's not if you, then I love you. If this, then I love you. It's not that. And one of the big learnings for me too was this external versus internal. So seeking external validation or external recognition, rather than being able to generate it from inside or have it inside. Mm-hmm. And how the world reacts. So the seeking external validation. I mean, we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want to be appreciated. We all want to be valued. Seeking that externally, though, creates this grasping energy where that's insatiable, that can never get enough. Feed me, feed me, feed me. Like, and inside there's still a hole that still needs to be fed. When we start to notice the beauty and the magic of life, and that feeling is that sustaining feeling that's inside, then we're operating, the world responds through attraction. Right. So all those things that we were chasing and grasping for actually get magnetized toward us. And so these are just things that
I'm reacting to the energy of what you're saying. Please keep going, because I have something that I want to contribute.
Oh, go. Yeah, for sure.
Everything that you're talking about right now, I heard it early this morning and I brought it into Arise, and it's something that I've been kind of playing with now, not playing with, but sort of reflecting on. Now, last lunar cycle, we're sitting in the energy. We're just about to cross over into the new moon energy. The moon is going to be precise in a few hours from when we're recording this. And I mentioned this to you last time. One of my new moon intentions was to keep my heart open, because there were certain people and situations where I was closing my heart. And from that moment, the universe brought me these things to keep my heart open. So anyways, it's no coincidence to me that just before we're about to step into the next lunar cycle, the universe gives me this next level, which is sort of a continuation of some of the things that I met in my experience of the last lunar cycle. But here's what I'm saying. I don't remember the exact words. I'm going to paraphrase, but this thing that I saw on the Instagram, the woman said that she heard somebody say that it's not about loving yourself. It's about loving being yourself. Because the loving yourself then removes you from you and makes it about the external. What do I love about myself? It removes you from this the action of loving and love. But when you love being yourself, then that comes from within. If I love being me, then other people are going to love me being me. But if I love me, then I'm looking for other people to love me, and they may not love the way that I am. So I might contort myself to get them to give me that love that I so seek. So, and that really, it hits me, especially, it's my experience, so I can share it. I was told not to call people in my class lovers. And I always preface this, and it was in one particular place. It wasn't everywhere. It was one particular place said, hey, if somebody hears that, they might misunderstand it. And I understand that, but I prefaced by saying, I'm going to refer to the group as lovers. And just as a runner runs, a painter paints, a person who loves themselves, a person who loves others, a person who is in the act of loving is therefore a lover. So when I say lover, that's what I mean. And I was told not to say that in this particular place. So the next day, and we had a heart to heart about this, and I sat with it and I struggled, and I'm like, okay, do I contort myself to fit into this place, or do I just continue being me? Because that's all I know. I've done, listen, I'm going on 89 years on this planet is what it feels like at this point. But I've lived enough experience to know how painful it is to contort myself so somebody can accept me. So if you're not going to, that's fine. This is not the space for me. But it just goes back to that. Like, I love being me. I love when I teach my class and say, hey, lovers, to have somebody else tell me, don't be yourself. That's like the worst thing, I think. So, and then it came. So now, anyways, I hear that thing. I find myself in this place of, do I contort myself to be loved by someone, or do I continue to just be me and have others love me for being me, which has been my experience in all the other places where I exist. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's so I love RuPaul for saying, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you blah blah blah. But I want to rephrase that. If you can't love being yourself,
Yeah.
how can you expect anybody else to do the same?
Oh, absolutely. And if, and when we love ourselves, we can be ourselves in the world. And what an experience and what a richer world that is when we are ourselves. Otherwise, we have people contorting themselves to be a version of what they think people will love. And I mean, I'm saying they, but I mean, I know I've done this.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
100%. It goes back to the internal and external validation for a long, long time. I was like, love me, like external validation. Um, and that created the spin of like, I could never find what I was looking for because it has to come from within. It has to be a love of who I am and shining that into the world to be the contribution to the whole of love that we are, all kinds of love. And I examined it a lot, and recognized that some of it comes from misconceptions about love, right? Like I think I was under the mistaken impression that to be love or to be loving was like to be a doormat, right?
Been
Like
there.
to be so polite and so kind and blah blah blah. And then somewhere along the line, it's like, no, like love has to have some boundaries too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And love has to stand up for itself when it's been crossed. And I think I traded a lot being polite and kind, thinking that that was the loving thing that, and I mean, I even had false impressions of what being yogic was. It's like, well, you right? Like if you're yogic, you're peaceful all the time, you never get angry, you like blah blah blah, like, but no, it's recognizing all of those things and all of the colors that are there.
Yeah.
And the boundaries, and we have to stand up for ourselves. And there's a time to engage these emotions in the right way, first accepting that all these emotions are part of who we are and allowing them to be fully in the world, and then engage them and direct them in the right way. And yeah, I don't know if you want to jump on that, because then I have another example.
All I can say is sometimes love says, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like that said in that boundary is like, fuck that shit. I'm not putting up with that. Love, Marianne Williamson says, sometimes love says no. And it's true.
Yeah.
We got to have the boundaries. It's not about being a doormat. It's not about, letting people manipulate you, which, and I'm not just talking about romantically. I'm talking about just like, if we're talking about loving being ourselves. Sometimes we have to say no to I don't want to say defend, but to maintain that beingness of ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, and so this ties into the example. And sometimes it's not even, sometimes it's like, it's the own internal confusion. And so there's so many thoughts I'm trying to link together here. So one of the other ideas in Anodea Judith's book is to have a guiding vision. So something that we're working toward. Bashar, the channel, talks about it as Daryl Anka's the channel. Bashar is the entity channeled. Talks about it as following your highest excitement, following the things that light you up. So I just, and I'm going to, so now I'll talk about the personal situation that happened, because this demonstrates that this wasn't even coming from outside, but I found myself in a situation where I forgot my guiding vision. I forgot who I am and like who I want to be in this world. And I got caught up in who I thought I should be, or who I thought people wanted to be me to be, or what people were expecting from me. And there was a situation happening that I was torn between, well, what's the loving thing, and does, you know, if I don't do something, then does it mean I don't care? Blah 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 blah. Anyway, I ended up in a situation there that I completely came out of my heart. And I did have some anger and some rage, and it was directed, you know, into the situation. And when I came away from it and I stepped back, I was like, oh my God, I totally realized what happened. I didn't take my own advice first, our own advice from our last podcast of energy flows where focus goes, and be careful what we're focusing on, because even the energy of fighting is energy that's feeding the situation. So that was so this is the first thing I have, is like the 3D versus 5D version of things. And how do we navigate this right now? Because I'm finding that the gap is widening. I'm finding that it's very confusing. And the confusion that I personally had in my own heart was that of doing something, which is the 3D version of like, I have to do something, I have to do, versus the be something, which is the 5D version of who am I, who do I want to be in this world. And then when I went back to the guiding vision of like, oh gosh, if I actually step back and say, who do I want to be in this world, and where do I know that I operate in balance, and it just became a lot clearer. It's like what do I want to create, who do I want to be in this world? And it's not saying that the other thing was wrong or what I did was wrong. It's just like, that's not me, and there's a need for somebody who can do that to do it, but it cannot be me, because I was ripped way out of my heart. And then when I stepped back, I was like, that's not me. That's not my highest excitement. I'm not meant to engage in that way. The way that I need to engage is to go back to, what's my guiding vision? What am I creating? And from there, I can follow my path. Yes. And be who I am in this world, and then not worry about what I think other people expect from me, or even if they do actually come at me with, you need to be blah, 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 blah. I can actually say, well, but this is my guiding vision. This is the contribution I'm making to the world. And I know I'm fulfilling that. And I also realized that I need to be creating more, because it was the fact that I have this creative energy that needs to be channeled somewhere, that was swirling, looking for something to attach it to. And yes, we've talked about this in our podcast about below the line creation and above the line creation. And when I didn't have a funnel for the above the line creation, which is putting the works out into the world, shifting the energies, this energy is looking for an outlet, which might be misguided. So anyway, that was a long,
Why, I'm here for it. And I was following along the whole time. But but that's exactly it. This kind of circles back to something that you said before, like, we all have a purpose here on this earth, and we need to be that regardless of what anyone else thinks. You know, again, going back to Marianne Williamson, and the reason why I keep going back to her is because she teaches from A Course in Miracles, and A Course in Miracles is all about dismantling the thought system of fear, which is the dominating thought system of this world, and remembering the truth of who we are, which is love. And so there's a lot of wonderful things in there. And she even says, you know, the universe says, okay, you go into the arts and you be an accountant and you know, be a parent and you do this. And like the universe guides us all to be these things. Those are those instinctual things that come from within that need to be expressed through us. That's spirit, God, whatever the divine intelligence of your understanding is. That's that energy's way of being present. And that is us being connected to that energy. When we resist it, we're actually not allowing that to flow through us. And the reason why it needs to flow through us is because that's what lights us up. And that's what's going to bring more light to this world. When we're all doing, and I mean, as I just said that, I know some people are thinking, well, I just want to be sipping a margarita on the beach. Yeah, so do I, but that's not my purpose. You know what I mean? Like what is our purpose? And I know for me, I always knew that I wasn't fulfilling my purpose until I got to a certain point. So I know that it's hard to know what your purpose is. I mean, if there's something that you can't let go of, I mean, if you love music and you can't stop playing music, then maybe go into music. That's the universe's way of saying, be a musician. Or if you love to, like you said about creating, if you're an artist in a way that creates movement experiences that blends movement and spirituality into an expressive whatever, that's what you need to do. If it's the thing that you would do and not for getting paid, I'm not saying don't get paid. I'm saying if you would do it regardless of if you're getting paid or not, most likely that's something that the universe is telling you to do. And the more you do it, the more there will be love on this planet, because there's not that internal war happening within, fighting against this desire to be and this need to do. I think that's what the war within is, desire to be versus that whatever is that voice that's no, you have to do it like this. I'm fucking tired of that voice and that energy in this world. Sorry for swearing again, but sometimes love says, fuck that shit. I'm putting that on a t-shirt. If there are any listeners that are really good at making t-shirts, put that on one for me, please. Let me know where to send my money order.
Oh my God, I'm almost unrecoverable.
Should we wrap it up there?
Totally.
Send 2 t-shirts, one to me, one to Catherine.
Oh my God. Yeah, I even like completely train of thought gone, like left the station without me. So yeah.
I think I'm okay, breaking the fourth wall again. I'm reviewing the show's notes. I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
Though it says here something about awakening. Do you want to mention that? Did we talk about that?
We didn't. That was just a little meditation to kind of keep us in our heart or allow us to connect better with our heart. So maybe we'll just do a little quick wrap up there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to lead that?
Sure. Or if you're inspired, because yours are amazing.
Start, and then I'll see where we go.
Okay. So first, just by settling in, perhaps closing the eyes feels good, or maybe we just want to drop our gaze and rest it at a spot on the floor or on the desk. Take a nice inhale. Nice big sigh. And maybe just do that one more time just to make sure we've dropped into that heart space. And as we feel our way into our hearts, in the way that we do, whether it's envisioning in the mind's eye or sensing in the body or any combination of auditory or any other senses. Find that golden light in our heart. Connect with that golden light in our heart. And as we deepen that connection, that light begins to expand. and grow. And it now fills our body. And it's so strong and powerful that the boundaries of the body can't contain it, so it surrounds us. And it expands to fill this room, to fill this neighborhood, to fill this community. It expands beyond the boundaries of any country. And this golden light completely engulfs the entire world. And as each individual heart expands, it blends with the golden light that surrounds this planet, this beautiful connected network of golden hearts, of perpetual reciprocity, of beauty and love. Breathe into it. Blend with it. Allow it to blend with us. Give and receive. And then gently just finding our way back to ourselves, back to our bodies, back to our own hearts, that glowing light, our hearts ignited and wildly alive. Take another breath. Take another sigh. If the eyes were closed, just let them flutter open, or just lift our gaze. Come back to the moment.
And if I can add, just put your hand on your heart now and feel that perpetual reciprocity beating from within. And that golden light that surrounds the world, pulling it into our heart, feeling it there as well. Remaining connected to all the other golden lights and golden hearts that beat in this world around us. And then maybe coming up with a word or a short phrase that summarizes this for us. Whatever is that lights you up. And as your heart beats, repeat it with every heartbeat in your mind. Feel it vibrating in the cells of your body. And go out into this world and continue to be a light for all of us. On that note, we are meant to thrive. How do you come alive?
The Living Spiritfully podcast is a Spiritful production. Executive producer, Paul Galloro. Co-producers, Claudia, Micco, and Stilo. A big thank you and much love to you, the Living Spiritfully community, for liking, subscribing, sharing, and supporting this podcast.